Zombies are a traditional staple of many games over the decades. It's an easy way for game developers to keep ultra violence against humans in your game without it feeling too awful because they're not really people anymore. They're mindless undead with a big craving for human flesh. But does anyone do zombies better than Warhammer? Fuck no! Nurgle body horror is rad as hell. It's the grimmest of the grimdark, and Fat Shark does a really fantastic job bringing the grotesque, sweeping nature of the Nurgle-afflicted masses to life. But what exactly are Poxwalkers? Are they really zombies? Which disease of grandfather Nurgles caused this devastation of the citizens of Tertium? Prepare the long rubber gloves and hold your breath because we're getting into the inner workings of Atoma's zombie plague and it's about to get real gross. Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button. So, how does one go from upstanding menial task drone of the Imperium to excess head growths and launching themselves at the faces of former convicts? Exactly the same way any of us end up bargaining with God when we have the sniffles. It all starts with an origin of infection. Darktide tells us all about how this illness has been spreading. Tox gas distributed through highly trafficked population centers, tainting the water supply, corrupting drugs used by denizens to escape the reality of daily life in the lower echelons of a hive city of 9 billion people. The wretched groaning of shambling poxwalkers themselves can infect the untouched spiritually, broadcasts with the specific intent to corrupt your soul. And of course, there are those who willingly accept affliction as a blessing in the cult of admonition. So, you've been infected by the Walking Pox. What's in store for you next? Not a great time, I'll tell you that damn much. The day you get infected, everything is mostly fine. After dinner, you feel a little nauseous and it doesn't go away. By the next morning, your stomach begins violently cramping and feeling like it's twisting in on itself inside your body, and your vision becomes subtly blurred and spotty. You can't tell if it's your eyes playing tricks on you, but you think that any scabs you have are looking greenish. The color from your face drains as your energy starts to follow suit over the next several days. No matter how much water you drink, you feel the skin on your lips pulling taut and hardening with what you assume is dehydration. Soon, it isn't limited to your lips. You notice through your blurred vision the unmistakable lines of the veins and capillaries in your face appear in patches where your skin is drying and hardening. You check your arms and discover the scabs you thought might be greenish have actually transformed into vivid chartreuse debris-filled wounds where your skin has begun to flake away. Your body racks with discomfort. It's been days since you've had any food due to the agony in your abdomen. Your joints throb with every heartbeat. You reach a hand up to brush the hair out of your face, and instead, you pull away clumps that have fallen out into your fingers. When your wife is able to come home from the ore refineries, she's by your side doing what she can to ease the pain. Today, you feel the stab of hunger for the first time when she's near. You can't explain it, but you feel like if she would just let you take one bite of her arm, everything would be better. You try to push the thought from your mind, but you can't stop thinking of the coppery taste of fresh blood in your mouth. You lunge at her, mouth open wide, clawing wildly. The only sound your body is capable of emitting is a rasping hiss. She screams. The neighbors don't understand what's going on. They help her secure you to the bed while she goes to find a medic. You don't notice that she doesn't return. Within another day, your scabs have turned into full-blown sores, weeping pus and fluids into the surface you lay on. Your flesh is literally rotting off your body. Some of the teeth you've lost have fallen out of your mouth. Others have been swallowed as you shake violently and your eyes scan with the intensity of a starving animal in search of prey. There is nothing left of the person you once were, merely a sallow and thinned out hull. You groan endlessly in pain, begging to be released from this torment by death. Your wife finally returns. So many are ill with your same affliction that it took many hours before she could even be seen and told that there is nothing to be done. Medics are overwhelmed with the dead and dying, and supplies are low. What little they have left seems to be ineffective at treatment. You hear her words, but don't understand them. You're no longer struggling against your restraints. Your body has stilled and convulsed in your last shallow breaths. Finally, mercifully, you stop. Your soul, the essence of your consciousness, waits to return to the Empyrean and join the Sea of Souls. You wait, and as seconds drag on into what you assume are minutes, you realize you no longer have any sense of time. The only indication of how long it's been is that your wife is still quietly weeping by your bedside and hasn't left yet to inform anyone of your passing. You wait. She undoes the bindings on your body and begins to prepare to have you collected. You wait. You never once even considered what the process of becoming one with the Immaterium would be, and as you wonder when it will happen for you, you chill, as without your input or will, the arms of your dead body lifts its torso off the bed. You're aware of the cold touch of familiar ceramite beneath its feet and hear the plodding of wet, decayed flesh on the floor. You can do nothing to intervene as your wife screams and warm liquid pools into the mouth of the beast your body has become. You are now a Poxwalker, an unwilling servant of Nurgle beyond the reach of physical death and damned to being trapped in your own shell as the rotting corpse that was your body moves to feed. It is a mercy when your unblinking eyes eventually cloud over from the irritants and scratches the body can no longer automatically protect them from. You don't have to watch what the face and body of a person looks like as they're devoured alive anymore. You are aware of the painful pressure in the head of the corpse beast. It seems completely unaware or undeterred by this, and eventually you feel the skull splinter and flesh snap open as unnatural growth bursts from its head and bones. Now at this point, I'm going to encourage us all to take a breath and shake this off, maybe look at a kitten, because I finally have a piece of good news. And then more bad news. But the good news first, there is, thankfully, a cure for the Walking Pox. The bad news is that it can only be taken as a 75 caliber round administered from the barrel of a bolt gun. The Walking Pox that creates the aptly named Poxwalkers has gone through some lore changes relatively recently. Originally, it was considered to be a form of zombie plague that is also a part of the arsenal of the Grandfather's blessings. Both zombie plagues and the Walking Pox are diseases from the warp. This means that they carry a supernatural element to them. The progress of symptoms and disease prognosis for the two are very much the same until the moment of death, where the crucial and defining difference is found. Plague zombies are imbued with the arcane power of chaos from the Immaterium, and this causes the reanimation of the victim's body after death. They are mindless, empty husks that display a psychic connection to each other, likely caused by the supernatural nature of the disease itself. Psychers have been known to be able to manipulate this pseudo-hive mind, and this connection seems to exist to help the plague zombies find each other to congregate in large numbers once undead. Poxwalkers, on the other hand, are not completely empty husks. It is a much more heinous fate victims of the Walking Pox are damned to, as their souls and consciousness remains trapped within the shell of their former body. The soul specifically is aware of and feels everything the body acts out against their will, while the physical corpse seems to pay no heed to pain. Poxwalkers often form in swarming tides together that overtake the loyalist enemies of chaos, severely weakening resistance before the Death Guard themselves come to finish the job. Walking Pox also has another distinct quality that separates it from other zombie plagues, which is that the bodies of the victims that succumb to it continue to twist and mutate even after death. They sprout spurs, tentacles, and horns that are eerily similar to the plague bearers that result from Nurgle's perfect incurable disease, Nurgle's rot. These horrifying and unique symptoms are what has prompted one of the newest minor ordos of the Inquisition to investigate reclassifying the Walking Pox as a strain of Nurgle's rot and not as a plague zombie virus. This work is being done by the Order Sepulturum, established during the Black Crusade to specifically respond to the overwhelming onslaught of chaos-tainted plagues. And no, it doesn't seem we're part of the Ordo Sepulturum. Game voice lines establish that we are working within the Ordo Hereticus at this point.
Be there any more righteous calling than the Ordo Hereticus? Creed swagger, here we go again.
At last! Let's hope it's worth it!
Now, obviously, I'm bringing up some existing lore here that's a little shaky. Sepulturum is a newer Ordos, but the source material for it are over 10 years old. And it doesn't even seem to be 100% certain that this retconning, or reclassification if you prefer that term, of the Walking Pox is going to stick. But what we see in Darktide does actually make a lot of sense for this strain of the Walking Pox to be a form of Nurgle's rot. Nurgle's rot is, without exemption, the most deadly disease that exists. It is incurable, and it isn't only because it's a powerful chaos-infused disease made by the Grandfather himself, but also because it causes the afflicted to experience symptoms of every disease. And the physical progression of the disease is the easy part. Nurgle's rot is so potent that it also infects the victim's literal soul. As the illness worsens and the victim gets closer to death, their soul is consumed and that energy is used to grow a lesser demon in the Garden of Nurgle called a plague bearer. When the sick dies, they dissolve into a puddle of human goo or just leave their desiccated husks behind, and the plague bearer is birthed, a formidable servant of Nurgle. The affliction of the soul itself is also seen in Poxwalkers. Instead of consuming the soul and being used as demon fertilizer, a victim's consciousness remains sealed in their body and does not return to the Imperium. This is highly unusual because in the 40k universe, the Warp, also called the Immaterium and the Imperium, is a shifting sea of psychic potential, and physical reality is where everything, well, physical exists. These two parallel realities are typically incapable of existing in each other's space except for very specific conditions. And the reason why this is important is because human souls, the spark that gives us individuality and consciousness, are pure warp energy. Since that shard of the warp that makes a human soul is contained within the physical human body, the living person acts as the container that allows for that fraction of warp energy to exist in reality. When a person dies, their soul, the portion of warp energy that existed within them and has been imprinted on by their very specific life, dissolves back into the warp immediately. There are very few and rare exceptions to this, and the two most common ones are the Poxwalker virus and Nurgle's rot. There isn't a specific reason established in the 40k universe as to why the living soul remains trapped in the body of a Poxwalker to give us an idea of what means to an end it serves. This is unlike Nurgle's rot because we know the soul is consumed specifically to grow a new demonic servant in the Garden of Nurgle in the form of a plague bearer. But considering that Poxwalkers are a step above plague zombies in their resilience and, for lack of a better term, intelligence, it could be possible that the soul contained within the moving corpse serves as the supernatural fuel that keeps the minor chaos beast moving and more effective than its zombie predecessors. They're almost like lesser demons. Regardless of if the Walking Pox is categorized as a zombie plague or as a form of Nurgle's rot, the fact remains that the Poxwalkers are very important in the beginning stages of a siege by the forces of Nurgle. If the ultimate goal of these agents of chaos is to open a warp gate or rift and usher in a full demonic incursion, this requires a sustained psychic and emotional projection that feeds the particular dark god that they are trying to invoke. This of course takes time, and Poxwalkers help to this end as they are not only warp-tainted entities themselves through the disease that created them, but their groans and presence also demoralizes people as they watch their loved ones unwillingly join the ranks of Nurgle, and it deepens the pit of despair that's closing over the population. Poxwalkers are also a very common overture used by companies of the Death Guard. Because the virus spreads so effectively and kills relatively quickly, Poxwalkers can amass in numbers to the level of a surging tide, I get it, just like the game's name, that overwhelms any defensive forces a loyalist faction may have available, crippling them greatly before the Death Guard themselves arrive to finish the job. As to what type of scenario or endgame we're seeing play out in Tertium, that still remains to be seen. It does seem the Death Guard may be looming on the horizon because Fat Shark pulled a little sneaky on us and put a direct reference to Mr. Death Guard himself, Typhus, in the Orthus offensive. I just can't wait to get our next hint on where this is going.
Don't they look desperate, brother?
Shut up, Rinda. If you enjoyed this video about the humble Poxwalker or my other lore videos, consider becoming a channel member. At higher tiers, you'll be in the credits of every video, or I'll personally shout you out myself for being amazing. Until next time, check out what you've been missing by not playing Darktide with me during streams. It's good fun. Okay, bye!